Hi, my name's Audree Grubesic. I am the founder of Offsite Dirt. And as many of you know, we love talking about not only traditional construction, but offsite solutions. And all that is within that means from building to manufacturing to celebrating events. Today, we have a guest that has been working with StructureBot, actually created it. His name is Jim Scott. And he's going to give us a little bit of background about his 3D system, his concrete 3D system, and why it's so important right now, and what that system is going to provide as far as housing. Welcome, Jim. How are you today?
I'm really well. Thank you very much. And I really appreciate the invitation to be with you today. And hopefully I can share all sorts of valuable information for the audience.
I think you're going to do great, and I'm really excited that you're here. Can you give us a little bit of your background and then what kind of led you into this 3D printing product?
Okay, great. I'm originally an aerospace engineer and I worked in the industry for a few years on the Titan launch vehicle back in the day. And then I started working with the aerospace industry for about 12 years, being a provider of 3D design software technology, solids modeling, finite element modeling and analysis design, shake, rattle, and roll machines, and all sorts of things that they wanted. And then I got involved in doing startups and did that for about 10 years, as well as being a mentor to startup companies through the Connect organization in San Diego on their Springboard program. And during that time, I was working with Rescue Mission in San Diego off and on, which serves a lot of homeless people and others that maybe not homeless, but they just don't have a whole lot to live with. And then I was building houses in East Tijuana that would be given to a family. And I remember my Spanish is a whole lot better then than it is today. But I was talking to the fellow that got the house. So he and his wife and two young boys, one 4 and one 6. And so we would go down on one weekend to build a foundation. The next week, a whole crew of people come up, build the walls, build the roof, put it all together. It wasn't super fancy. It had one wall on the inside and it looked really nice, but no running water. It did have a power line that went up to a station someplace with about 12,000 other power lines going to it. It was nuts. But I asked the guy, what's a good day for you economically? And he said about $6. And what is your average day? About $3. So the point of it is and he said, when you guys are lined up to leave Mexico to go back into San Diego, well, I'm one of those guys that sells you the stuff you absolutely have to have before you leave. And I said, okay, great. And what I found out is that the people that use those folks to do that work, they keep all the money. They give the guys hardly anything. So at any rate, that stuck with me. And when I relocated out to Colorado again, I grew up here and then moved away and came back. And there was this thing about, well, what am I actually doing out here? And I found myself being nudged mentally to do a systems model of homelessness in Colorado Springs. So I did a complete model of that, and I shared it with a whole bunch of city officials and the CEO of Rescue Mission here. And that gentleman said, you're spot on. So what I found was there's about 14, 15 ways to fall into homelessness and 1 or 2 ways out. So it's a big dark hole. And so he said, well, what are you going to do about it? And I said, well, I don't really know, but the model is good and everybody likes it. So I just went like that and said, oh, 3 months later came into my head, oh, maybe I could 3D print houses cheaply, not knowing that people were already working on this. I was just taking the idea because I'd worked in 3D printing back in the mid 80s with 3D systems when they were a startup company. And so that whole idea just kind of resonated in my head. And I started working on building a 3D printer. So I built a 4 foot by 4 foot by 4 foot cubed 3D printer that would be using cementitious materials to do something. And then that was the idea, was prove that it can work, scale it up, go into business.
Yeah, and
And
I think, and Jim, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I do think it's really important for people to understand what is 3D printing. What does that really mean?
Oh, well, there you go. I mean, you've probably seen 3D printers out in the marketplace that have plastic cords that go into the machine, and then it prints something with a little head that moves all over the place. And that's exactly what we're doing, but we're using cementitious materials, or concrete is another word for it. But so the printer nozzle moves according to the commands that are given to it, and it uses something called G code to make it move around. But the process starts at the high level with the design of something like a house, and you have to design that house so that it can be 3D printed. It's not the same as taking a wood design and making it go, because there are things about layering that you have to do. So the overall is that the machine lays down parallel walls of concrete, and then it goes layer by layer up to the wall height, maybe 10 feet. And when it's done, it's hard enough that you can bring in the trades and start doing things like electric on one day, plumbing on the next day, HVAC on the third day, and then the rest of it is adding the roof and doing the interior and exterior finishing if that's desired. So the benefit of it all is that you've got one, it's a concrete house, which is very resilient in a lot of different ways. First, the termites don't like it, mold and mildew don't like it, and it's very resistant to high wind events, and if it's designed right, seismic events. And I lived through fires in San Diego, 3 big ones. Had to leave my house and go sleep at the beach. And so I have a mental thing in my head about, let's try to keep it as flame proof as possible. So that's one of the reasons why I'm doing it the way I'm doing it.
I think
Um,
it's wonderful that you have found a material, and obviously it sounds like a good insulated material. And we're also trying to figure out, how can we create faster? How can we build something more
yeah.
sustainable? And it really sounds like this is a unique offering to being able to do that. So when we look at your product, and the system is going and it's building the walls, how long does it take for the wall to set? Is it the material that allows it to set faster? Or how quickly would you be able to say, let's say you wanted to build a small development of 10 homes, maybe about 1,000 square foot home. How long would that technically take, Jim, to be able to produce that product?
Well, I'll give you a couple of data points. And this particular data point comes from Virginia Tech University and houses that they did in Richmond. And so I've been in communication with the professor that was in charge of that. And they were able to print this 1,550 square foot house with 3 beds, 2 baths. And it took them about 22 hours to print the whole thing. Now, the point about it is that if you look at regular concrete and you try to pour it, it slumps down. So what is happening with the 3D printable concrete is it sets pretty fast. You have an open time between layers of maybe 30 minutes. So that printhead has to be moving pretty quickly to be able to make that happen. OSHA sets the speed to about 10 feet per second. So it's not going to do anything more than that right now. Um, but the point of it is that it lays it down and it just keeps going higher and higher. And depending on the mix that you're using and some of the additives you might have to stop at 3 feet or 4 feet, let it cure for a few hours and then keep going, or you can go all the way to the top. And
And
it's,
Jim, how do you put your doors and windows in that product? How does that work?
well, you in the 3D model that you have of the structure, it will know exactly where the door edges are and where the window edges are, and then it will come in and stop and turn right at one of the edges, and it just goes back and does what it's doing. So you don't have to cut anything out. It just does it automatically. But what you will do is that you might put wooden forms to hold it in place for where the door goes, for example, and then you put one on top as like a lattice, or a, my brain just went flat on me, the top board for the window and the door, and you'll just print right over that.
So the header areas of
The
where
header,
those
yeah, you
windows are.
got it.
Yes,
Yeah.
wonderful. Well, I love that. It's so ingenious, right? It's amazing what we can do with data. It's amazing what we can do with robotics. It's amazing what we can create. And now we're able to create these homes. For StructureBot, where are you guys headed in the next, 12 to 24 months? What's the future of your company?
We are aiming for three things. We want to be able to build highly resilient, um, highly energy efficient structures. Now, we are a technology company providing the technology in the form of these robotic systems that we build to the industry. But as part of our grant from OEDIT, which is the Economic Enterprise, the Office of Enterprise Development and International Trade in Colorado gave us a grant. As part of that grant, we have to do 36 homes, and they could be ADUs or bigger houses or workforce housing. We have some people in one of the local mountain towns that says that we need some help. We'd love it if you could help do workforce housing. They don't have places for their police and fire and whatever, so that's one of the issues that they have. And if a builder wants us to do something that's more grandiose, high end, in my real estate background, I used to sell $4 or $5 million houses in San Diego area. So I understand completely what that end is all about. But I'd really like to see us do something and we have a project we're working on right now that will serve probably in the bottom 25% of the AMI for that area in town. So if we can do that and it works, it'll be fabulous.
Yeah, I agree with you. And as we're all aware, the state of Colorado, in the actual city of Denver, the mayor actually declared a state of emergency for homelessness. They are looking to put about 1,000 homes together. And so there's many initiatives that individual builders and companies are working at. So we'd love to see StructureBot be able to create something in that sector. In closing, Jim, how do you stay inspired in building, and what keeps you motivated to keep growing and expanding?
Well, the need is absolutely huge. And I, again, because of my background, I think about things globally. And the United Nations put out a report about 2 years ago that said that there's going to be somewhere close to 11 billion people on the planet by 2100. And that curve is growing fast. So that means that there's a need for somewhere between 800 million and up to 2 billion new homes required around the planet to serve this population need. And in the US, we have what I euphemistically say is a broken real estate market. And because housing development has gone up to over 200% since the year 2000. And that just makes an equation for affordability and attainability to go just nuts. So I'd like to see us use the technology to help make that equation better for people to get into something. Um, and that's just it's a huge need. I've got family members that can't afford a house, and they don't seem to be able to save up enough money to do the down payment. So let's get the cost equation in line so people can actually afford to get into something.
I agree with you, Jim. It has been a pleasure meeting you. It's a pleasure to see this company create something so innovative. And hopefully, we'll be able to see some amazing product coming out of your company as well. I know that it takes vision, hard work, and experience, and boy, you have all of it. So thank you for being here on Offsite Dirt today.
Well, thank you very much, Audrey, for having me. I will say that to your comment about projects, watch 2024. We have about 6 or 7 projects we'll be doing, and I think some of them are going to be really awesome.
I know it will. It starts with an idea. It starts with the nature and the ability to have that force behind you, and 3D printing is on the rise. So I'd love to see this expand, and I'd love to see your company grow. Thank you again for being
Thank
here.
you very much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.